Hi, Madhavan. It's always a pleasure to meet you. I have a definition for why you are a modern legend. But before that, I know this is going to be one of those I know I'm going to sound pompous kind of thing. You're going to begin with that. But seriously speaking, why do you think, this title might apply to you?
Every time I speak to you, Baradwaj, I get to learn a little bit more about myself, which is
Thank
why I
you.
look forward to these sessions with a lot of enthusiasm.
Thank you.
I do feel this to be a big honor, and I've been questioning myself for the past week, wondering why this title would be apt for me. I think that when I started off with Tamil, I was very conscious of my age. I was doing a love story when I was 30. And right then, as soon as I finished Alai Paide, I realized that I need to get into a bracket of age group where I'll be able to play that sort of a role over again, because it becomes easier for you to catch a particular genre and keep making movies on that genre when it works. So, and people have done that before and it's really worked for them. So I realized that maybe I won't be this young teenage looking for a long time. So as soon as I finished Alai Paide, I jumped into Kannathil Muthumittal, where I was playing the father of three children. Most advisors at that time would have said that's suicide. You don't want to do something like that. You don't want to play fathers and stuff so earlier on in your career. But I think that whole insecurity of not being wanting to be slotted. The second, the fear that I didn't have the ability to dance and fight like the rest of the heroes. And the fact that at that time in Tamil, I was being projected as one of the top guys, with Ajit Sir, Vijay, Surya, and the rest of the people, Vikram. So I was very conscious that I had to find a niche for myself where I'm not competing on areas that are not strong for me. So in that attempt, I started doing roles that were very varied, which were not in the commercial mainstream realm of films. At the same time, had the ability to earn a lot more than what was invested in them. Uh, that attempt, I think, over a period of time, became an addiction, and I started taking roles. I started picking up roles that people normally would not, associate with a commercial hero. And in that process, I realized that I was using a lot of my life experiences to fuel in the life on those roles. And that started working. So my defense training came to great help with Rang De Basanti, or in Guru, the fact that I was an investigative sort of a journalist in that film, and my curiosity for due diligence was written all over the face. So I started playing to my strengths, and I think I'm here in front of you today because of the grace of God and my absolute desire to do something different all the time.
So my answer was something along the lines of what you said. I think you are one of the very few actors that has planned their career beautifully. It is almost like you can give an MBA lesson on how to and I mean every word of what I'm saying, on how to do a SWOT analysis on oneself, so to speak, and kind of have this extended career instead of just being the flavor of the day and then kind of disappearing after 5 or 6 years. When you were still getting good roles in Tamil, you were doing Kanathil Muthamittal, like you said. But I think one of your best performances and one of my personal favorites of yours is in Aidirthu, where you pretty much took off your hair and were this brutal, violent killer kind of person. Again, not a typical something that one would associate a a commercial hero, like you said, to do. And after that, you were kind of playing what might be seen as second fiddle to Amir Khan in Three Idiots. But for me, that is a very crucial role in the film, because the part of you become a photographer, and that scene where your father realizes it, I think it's something that resonated with many young people, and then now going into OTT and then going to direction and all these things. I think you have kind of said that nothing is beneath me as long as the role is good and the project is good, and the even in the screen time that I have, as long as I have the time to make an impression, I'm going to go ahead with that. And I think this is not an easy realization for most actors, because they keep trying to be the macho hero, or the whatever it is that they're slotted as for the longest time possible. and I think that's where they begin to, the audiences begin to tire of them. And I think the audience, we are still watching you after 20 years, 21 years, or whatever it is, because you have diversified, so to speak, your portfolio. If you're looking at a stock market kind of scenario, you have diversified your portfolio so beautifully. So for me, that is very, very rare to find in an actor. So that's why I think the title kind of fits you. So
Okay. That's very in depth, and thank you. I think you're absolutely right. I just wanted to say that one of the trappings of being in the film industry is to take the trodden path, which is the most widest, easiest one to take. One of the examples I'll give you, and for those of you who know about South Indian cinema, you get titles as an actor. You get some star, Universal Star or Superstar, and there are many others, right? I realized the trappings of having a title, and I made sure that when there were the fan clubs that were there, and they were dying to give you a title so that they could clap and whistle when the title appeared first in the film. That was the biggest trapping, because then you had to cater to that. Your brand equity or your brand identity was that title. So I made sure that I was just Nadigar Madhavan and did not did not let anybody actually stick a title to me. That worked consciously and subconsciously for me, and that's right. I managed somehow to create a varied and diverse portfolio, like you said.
yeah. But in this entire journey, Madhavan, which is encompassed Tamil, Hindi and OTT and all these kind of things. Like at that, what point did you finally like sit down and say, "Boss, I've finally done it. I finally made it." What is the point that happened?
If anything, I feel very inadequate right now. I don't think I've ever reached that stage at all. I mean, it feels, I think those sort of realizations happen when an event like this happens, for instance, or I meet a big star or a politician or a leader who embraces me and says, and says and means what he says when he says that he really likes my work. Or I meet people from different generation in the same family who say, yeah, they are part of the products that I create and consume that. So maybe that time I feel like I'm on the right path. But if anything, I still feel very strongly that my best is yet to come. I don't know if that's a safety mechanism or if that is a fact. But I have never actually sat around. I think the fact that I was also not financially super settled at any given point of time. I never allowed myself to be there. That hunger to create what is called a star life has always kept me wanting more. But I realized that I can never live like a star. I'm a terrible star. I don't wear designer clothes. I can't afford to have people around me all the time. I need that. And I also realized that your demure and the way you walk in an airport or in public kind of decides how many people mob you and how many people leave you alone. So I'm very, very hungry. I don't think I've ever reached a stage where I can turn around and say, I made it.
Right. Okay. Let's be narrow that question down. Let's say, at least in acting, when you entered Alai Paide, you had already acted in serials and things like that. But at what point in your film career did you get a realization that, wow, okay, I think I really nailed that scene. That
I
must, at
think
least that must have happened a bunch of times.
Oh
Right?
yes,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
yes, oh
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, since I never wanted to be an actor, I never trained to be one, and this was just a Alice in Wonderland look in my face till I started Ali Paide, right up to Unbasivam. Okay, so I remember my first take being okay with Mani Ratnam. I didn't believe that he had actually said okay for a take. It was an out of body experience for me. When he offered me Kannathal Muttamital, that was a reassuring factor that he actually considered me an actor and I'm capable of pulling off something, on these lines of a Tamil poet, because my Tamil was anything close to being that of a poet. But he was casting me on it, and then either which was completely different from my background. So every time I got an okay, every time I saw your reviews, for instance, and all the other reviewers, that's the time I felt like, hey, you know what? Looks like it's going to be a lifelong profession. I remember clearly telling Mani Ratnam that after your film, I don't think I'll be acting anymore after Ali Paide. I really said that to him, and he smiled, an all-knowing smile. But and I actually felt that. I just thought that you start off with somebody like Mani Ratnam on your debut, and then where do you go from there? What do you do, especially since you don't have a background in the industry? So, and then when I worked with Kamal sir in Anbesivam, and I remember that there was a distinct moment when I was doing a couple of scenes with him, and I remember having butterflies in my stomach when I'm watching him do makeup, when I'm sitting with him rehearsing the scene, having multiple outer body experiences, looking at myself, and if there were selfies at that time, I'd be taking zillions of them. But I remember sitting on that seat with Kamal sir, and something very strange happened the moment action was called. There was, of course, a power equation when we were on the set, because that was superstar Kamal Hassan, is the Valaganayagan, as they call him. And I've been a huge fan of both these gentlemen, Sir Rajni sir as well as Kamal sir. But acting wise, there was nobody to touch Kamal sir. So that whole aura of being the junior on the set and, being the thing suddenly vanished when action was called. Uh, uh, I don't know which part of my brain was observing me, but during the shot I was like, what the hell? You can't treat Kamal sir like that. But and there was a distinct moment when I felt that being pushed to the side, and I was being who I was supposed to be. The
Character.
power equations, but yeah, the power equations off the screen, off the set was not coming into the scene, and I knew there was a huge transformation happening within me. So, and believe it or not, it happened again during Three Idiots when I was with Amir Khan or Rangde Basanti. I always felt I gave them respect and I was in awe of their achievements. But when the camera was turned on, it was you or me. It was not you and me in terms of competition, but I have to be that character. That guy was supposed to be superseding you, so he will be. There will be no reverence, which was so evident before the shot was called. That was a moment that thing changed when I realized I can't stand on my own, and I now have to design my career accordingly.
Let's leave the earlier part of your career out, right? Because but once you started the actual serious planning, uh, what is the one thing that you look for in a script?
One of the things that has worked for me, and I have had the advantage of doing, is to select scripts. Right, most actors just take up a script and with parameters that make sense to them. For me, I have the ability to select scripts depending on the space I am in my real life. Okay, so if you look at Hollywood actors, they don't do 60 films in their lives. You see a Tom Hanks, or they're in their 20s after 30 years of career, careers, right? And I had done 60 films in my first 10 years. So I realized that when I want to select a subject, I'm first of all engaging with my own self and seeing what is it that I feel about the world that I'm in at this point of time in my life. I don't know how to explain that to actors, but I think it's extremely important. What you're going through in your life, your body tells you, your mind tells you who you are, what you can relate to, and you hear a subject, and the relatability is instinctive, like instantaneous. For example, after finishing Three Idiots, everybody told me not to do Tandu. They said, "What are you doing? You've got a pivotal role. The film is a blockbuster. 2 years later, you want to pick up a film called Tanu Vajmanu." It doesn't make sense when the top actors, directors were offering you movies. But I was looking at all the films being made at that time, and I just realized, why is there nobody making love stories in India? Why is the second and third tier cities and where I grew up from, why is the romance of that never being shown? Why is everybody coming from this second town, somebody from um, like a holier than thou girl or a guy, and all from a Rajshri production sort of stories. And so when Tanu and Manu came to me, I remember telling my manager at that time, saying, "Ye mitti ki khushbu wali koi kahani liya hai aap," and she was like, "Where do I get you this uh, close to the grounds earthy love story?" And this happened. I heard the title Tanu and Manu, it happened. So I grabbed onto it with snake teeth. There was no way I was going to let that go. And so that becomes a priority. Where am I at this point in time in my life, and does that speak? Does the story and script speak to me? If it does, then there is no way in hell, Bharadwaj, I'm going to ever let it go. Then I fight all the battles on behalf of the director, on behalf of the producers, on behalf of the actors. That becomes my project. I need to see it out. The second thing is, I see the reason behind, apart from the co-stars and everything, which I never actually interfere with. I see the reason behind why the film needs to be made. How strong is the voice of that director? Because being a director or a creator on the set is one of the most difficult things to do. And if your agenda is anything but to tell a story that is coming from deep within, you're not going to be able to stand me. I'm going to come there and I'm going to bulldoze you over. And I don't want to be on a set where I can bulldoze you over. I want to respect the story you want to tell. And if anything, as an actor, I just want to blend in and just want to be the actor where I'm trying my best to portray a character that is calling out to me. So the intention of the director and the producer is extremely important. Sometimes I have said no to a project, even though I related to it completely, because the reason for the director to make the movie and the producer to make the movie and for me to do the movie was completely different. Very recent films, even if I may say so. And till the right team came, and there were major upheavals before such a team was formed, I would hold back. I will not let go of the script, but I will hold back till people find sense in what I'm saying. And eventually, one of the films I don't mind saying is Maara. I don't think I could have got a better director than Dilip, and the producer also. Shruti was extraordinary, but they went through hell till finally the film released, and so that's been my criteria. Once those boxes are ticked, then I don't let any force on earth come in between the conceived story and the final product, and I'm there till the release.
Right. So let's talk about Mara, right? That was your last release, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Your most recent release, that is.
Yes.
And that was a remake of an adaptation, rather, of the Malayalam hit Charlie with Dulquer Salman. So, to use your words, that you said that I need to get the feeling that the story needs to be told. I'm just asking you as an example, why did you feel this particular story needed to be told?
Good, very good. So I knew it was a remake of Charlie. All of us knew that there will be a band of people who will tear us apart for not being able to do what Dulquer did, and fair enough. That was smart. We are smart enough to realize all that. But there were a lot of holes in that story that needed to be filled. So when the story actually came to me, I could not find the purpose of why this guy was a Roma, why the girl was looking for him. I needed to set stories, and I also needed to have a deeper impact in terms of why he's trying to make these old people meet. When that story came to me, I was perceptive enough, Baradwaj, to realize that the world was hurtling towards what looked like to me disaster. Okay, I'm sure. Just think about your life before the COVID era. There were so many things happening at so fast. All of us were thinking, where is this going to stop? How many things am I going to be handling in a day? Everything was left at 80%. There was, every endeavor of yours, be it relationship, professional, there was you just didn't know why it was getting faster and faster and faster. And I think COVID came across as one of the biggest release for people to just say, hang on, boss, please understand what your life means. Do you want to smell the grass or not? But I perceived and I predicted this, people hurtling into an abyss emotionally and mentally as soon as I heard the story of Maara from Dilip. I said, this is exactly the world. You make it utopian. You make everybody in this feeling good. Somebody's just better than the other, but there is no nastiness. The intentions are bad, maybe, for father not, looking at his daughter being a source of income for him and kind of stuff. But I don't portray them so much that there's any fear or anguish when you see a story like that. Okay, I need it to be smart, I need it to be beautiful, and I need you to open up the camera. I'm telling you, people need to see this. Even though ours is going to be a small film, I need you to make it larger than life in terms of its art. And its art, not just the heart, but also the art and the color and everything. So, in my opinion, we achieved all of that. Went through a lot of rings of fire, but we managed to achieve all of that. And I'm very, very proud of the film. And I think eventually the story, and strangely for us, it came out when half of COVID was done. So it had that sort of, everybody who sees it, it was refreshing. And there was no morbidity in it and stuff like that. And I was absolutely spot on in terms of the impact of the story.
What I asked Dilip, I told Dilip this, that I really wish I'd seen this on a big screen, because, somehow that the scope, the scale of the film, you could sense it even on your TV or whatever it is, but somehow it just seemed like something you wanted to see the big screen, because especially when a story is emotional, the emotions work so much better when you're in a theater. It's just like you actually cry, you actually laugh, you actually do all those things, and so So when you're doing projects like Breathe, for instance, which are deliberately OTT projects, as opposed to where the only choice is that they're either going to watch it on a tablet or a phone or the TV or whatever it is, you know that this is not going to be a movie experience. So is there something slightly different, or is it still the same criteria that the story is something that should be told, those kinds of things?
Well, that criteria never changes. But then the intelligence isn't trying to understand what is the method and the and the meter in which the story needs to be told. Anybody in his senses will realize that Breathe is not something that can be made into a movie.
Yeah.
You know, you had to have that episodic feel to it to keep people engaged. The difference that people are not able to understand at that time when OTT came, I remember a lot of people saying, I have this film script. I don't think it's working out. Let me make it into an OTT series or a thing. And that was the biggest mistake because the factor of forgiveness on the OTT is far less compared to cinema. All right. You have many other ways to you make up for a bad script on cinema, not on OTT. Secondly, the pacing had to be very, very high. So your performers had to be real. So Bharadwaj, unlike the South, when you do something in OTT in the North, it's always sync sound. So your casting all automatically gets aligned with people who only know how the language is spoken and the pace at which it's spoken and the accent with which it has to be spoken. Now, I cannot emphasize the merit of such a thing enough, even in the south of India, right? You know, when people don't do sync sound, people work with people who are not familiar with the language or the accent or with prompting. The rhythm with which the scenes are
Yeah,
created
yeah.
takes you that much further away from reality. And for the kind of films that I do, where it's not just a boisterous, livelihood, color on the screen, when people have to be in character, people have to deliver on the same bandwidth in which that film is being made, it becomes very difficult when they don't know the language. You know, the rhythm is wrong. You start an action and you cut it, and somewhere you're working, or the person has not got it right. Half your mind is working on the rhythm not being right. I've been realizing that post sabbatical I took in 2014 before Sala Khadus or Eridhi Sutra. But with OTT, I knew there was another rhythm. There's a completely different rhythm. There's a different rhythm to OTT series which are half an hour, an OTT series which is for 45 minutes, an OTT short series, and an OTT season series. Okay,
Yes.
there's a season graph. The season graph as well as the episodic graph and the scene graph. These are all technical things that actually exist. It's not somebody writing a story and scene and making it happen. You really have to plug in the points like it's actually a formula. So as far as Breathe was concerned, very strangely, even though it was earlier on and the first initial part of OTT, the coming of OTT, it ticked all those boxes for me. In fact, the fact that the first two episodes were made very close to the Indian palatable sort of a spacing where they are getting used to the subject, and then third, fourth onwards, we took it to the level of international level of storytelling, where the pacing and the predictability of the story unfolding was completely breaking the mold as far as India was concerned. And I think I owe my entire victory to all the team that I have. Sometimes you pick up a project and you find resistance with everybody because they don't want to change. But this film, of course, it was Vikram Malhotra, the director Mayank Shekhar, and my co-star Amit Saad. All of these guys were like ready to gallop in that direction, and I'm very proud of that project because it really turned out to be as close to what we had conceived when we first heard the story.
You knew that there was a chance that you might be overshadowed by Kangana in Tanu, simply because she has the more colorful role, whereas you're the foil, right? Or let's say Anbe Shivam or any of these other films, or let's say a three-hero project like either which is like which in which you have a good track, but there's always like another actor could be thinking, what if that person is appreciated more? What if that track is appreciated more, or whatever it is? This lack of insecurity, at least, was it always like? Is it something you had to pick up, or was it always a part of you? Like, were you always a person like that?
Yeah, I was always a person like that. I never looked at short-term impacts in my life. I would win, I would live for short-term impacts, but I would never have to worry about, because it was very evident to me that if you had a story be it Vikram Veda, for instance, or
Yeah.
Rang De Basanti, where I had like a 9-minute role. But earlier on in my career, as early as 2006, I realized that I was in a film called Rang De Basanti. I was supposed to do Siddharth's role, but I couldn't do because of long hair that I had, and I ended up doing the pilot's role. Big revelation in my life, because even now when they speak about Rang De Basanti, my name is synonymous with that film for a 9 minute appearance. And these gentlemen who worked so hard on the film for 1.5 years, and I only worked for like 8 days, I think. So they've been working for 1.5 years and stuff like that. And then I realized that immortality in terms of being recognized as a character depends on how you play that character and how that character is written and how it is presented finally. And so, even if it does seem like an underwhelming role or a character, can I just share the experience with Rang De Basanti for you? Because
Sure.
I remember for an actor that was I was supposed to do Siddharth's role, but then Amir said, "Maddie, you have to do one role in this film. Please, can you do Flight Lieutenant Rathod?" When I heard that narration from Rakesh and Amir, I'm like, guys, you're asking me to be a perfect boyfriend, a perfect son, a perfect patriot, a perfect friend, and almost a legendary sort of a reputation for all these guys to go and just give their lives up for him.
And
And
the linchpin of the film, the story.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so, but the linchpin consisted of me being every one of these characters. And Bharadwaj, everybody knows you need one movie to show that you're a perfect or a boyfriend, or a perfect son, or a perfect friend, or a perfect patriot. You need an entire movie to show that, right? So I was telling Rakesh, I said, how do you expect me to do justice to this? I mean, I have only been 5 years old as far as I'm doing films, but Rakesh, how do I do justice to this? I have one scene in every film to prove all that. So he said, that's why I've come to you, Maddie. What the hell? So I was thinking very hard on how to make this real. I wanted to make it real. I wanted to make sure that people felt that they lost somebody they knew. So Bharadwaj, I asked him, I said, can you leave me free? Can you let me just do this role the way I want to? He said, of course, you do what you want. So I told him, I said, I want everybody to feel that Madhavan died, not Flight Lieutenant Rathod. I think they should feel that Madhavan died. So I said, what do you mean? I said, let me do this as naturally as I can. Let me not play. There will be a lot of discrepancy in how I'm as a pilot in one scene and how I am as a friend in another. That will be forgotten. But let me just be me. Let the smiles just be me. My body language just be me. I have lived with the defense for enough to know how the body has to be when you're in front of your seniors. But this has got nothing to do with that. So he allowed me to be just Maddie, just who I am, right? And I think, and to a large extent, uh, people felt the loss because they were seeing a very real person on the screen. There wasn't a shade of style or a little bit of projection because of the role. It was just somebody very natural, because the lines were so beautifully written, the scene was so beautifully written. I had to underplay, and it worked for me. So I'm saying those kind of things have taught me not to judge the outcome of a film just based on what looks to me as the more prominent character in the film. So after that, I was fearless. Three Idiots, Rang De Basanti. Even in fact, in Tamil, if you look at, in fact, I produced and wrote the screenplay of the film, which is Iridi Sutru, and it's very clear that it's the female-oriented film. And people took a lot of pride in saying, she acted better than Maddie, and I wanted that to happen. She got the national award for it, Ritika. So I'm very sure that the story has to work. If that works, that goes into the archives, that makes it much more valuable as an asset, and gives me the ability to make the kind of movies that I want to later on, which is what is happening right now.
I have never associated you as one of those actors who does some great method, because you seem very in sync with the characters everywhere. Is there any when you act, for instance, like one classic example would be Kamal, for example, like there's a bit of physical transformation either externally or in terms of a limp or something, or he might be doing some gesture like something like this, or something to kind of energize that character, or make it a little bit different, or maybe put on an accent or something like that. Whereas with you, how does that work, in the sense that in a way you're transforming your inherent maddiness to all these characters? I'm just trying to understand how that happens.
Very good question. So yeah, what the word you're looking for is gimmicks, to make it more pivotal. So people do that. Kamal sir has the ability to hold that strain for the rest of the film, and therefore the characters become quite immortal, and that's amazing, right? But the idea is to make, if I'm doing, let us say, Manmadan Anbu, or which is on the lines of, Michael Madana Kamarajan sort of a thing. When the story is pitched on that level, then everybody goes to that level to
Yeah,
act. You need to be there. So I have done films like that. I've
yeah,
done
yeah,
Arya,
yeah.
I've done films like that. So where the pitch is that level, but I never required a walking stick in terms of gimmickry to make the character work. So, and I don't think that actually makes a character work too much. But on rocketry, for instance, I have to do that a lot in terms of not being me in many scenes, in terms of how I look and how I behave, because it is about a real guy. And you have to, and although nobody knows about how he really behaves, I have to maintain that realness or realism throughout the story, and that's a big challenge. My life experiences have given me enough opportunities to know that I take a character and I, breathe life into it. I go and surrender myself to the director. I'll tell him that I'll be going over and under. You have to let me know when to stop. And then I have that much faith in the director that they will do that. So from Anand Rai to Dilip, they were beautiful, but help me navigate that. But I always give a little more than what is required, and then I look at it and I know that there is where you've gone slightly beyond realism. But very beautifully asked this question, simply because when I see a character that I can relate to, it's very important for me to infuse a little bit of Maddie into it, okay, my real life experiences into it, and that gives me like a spine to hold on throughout in terms of my performance. So I don't deviate from that spine too much, and I know the impact of a scene. So if somebody is acting in it and somebody has to get the prominence in it, just sit back. Don't have to, make yourself known that you're also present in the scene. But when it's your scene, you know how to do it. And I'm able to bring in that realism because of my life experiences.
So let's go to some questions that are coming here. Has there been a moment where you found yourself on the verge of a cathartic breakthrough moment while playing one of your film characters? What was the experience like?
I think it happened during a film that's yet to release, which is Rocketry, where I had to direct and produce and write and act in it at the same time. Very strangely, Bharadwaj, I did not. I mean, it was a concoction meant for disaster, because my wife knows my temper, how I am, and there is no way that there was this was going to be a good decision, and only God had to save us. But the catharsis moment happened on the first day of shoot. It was my wife came, and a lot of people who know me came onto the set expecting to see fireworks happening, because that's what they were expecting from a set of mine. But something strange happened on the first day of shoot. It was just almost like I completely went inside. There was no anger or stress or anxiety, anything. It was a completely different Maddie that I've never seen in my life. And I'm able to realize too. And Sarita's like, "What happened to you?" I said, "I have no idea. I have no idea what has happened to me." But I was able to come in the morning and be a producer, and then get that out, then be a director to set up the scenes, then get that out, then get into being Nambi Narayanan in Tamil, in Hindi, and in English. And not just me, everybody around the set was doing that. And there was a sense of calm, but it's sort of a nuclear energy that was happening inside. You could not see it happening, but it was there. And that was the moment of catharsis where I realized there's a completely different side to me that I'd been keeping hidden for a long time or not allowing to come out. And I will never forget that first day of shoot in my life ever.
Wow, but you don't have an answer for it. That I was kind of hoping that you had an explanation for that.
I think that all of us vastly underestimate ourselves, Bharadwaj. I think that is one of the biggest insecurities in the film industry. You're completely afraid to go all out, and you're completely afraid to, because it's a job that, has the whole world passing judgment on it. And unlike any other job, if you fail in a particular project, only you and the company know. But here, everybody, the man on the
It's a
street,
public failure, yeah.
it's a public failure to a colossal level. Okay. And in that level, and I think for the new creators, for the new directors, the awe with which they approach people will either produce or direct their movies or take up sometimes they end up vastly underestimating themselves. Okay. And only few that have the grit in them to, tell people that, guys, you guys are the old guard. I have this story. I know it can be made. So if you cannot help me, just get out of my way. That attitude is very difficult to come by. That what happened to me in this, because I knew that I've never directed a iPhone film in my life. I've never been to I've never been to an editing studio in all my life. All my directors, they hate me during the shoot and they love me post that, because I only come to see the final product. I've never been to an editing room in my life, and this one changed everything. So I don't know what the answer is, but maybe it is that you should give yourself enough credit to reach out and try and grab things that you really want, and maybe you'll surprise yourself with how strong an arm you have.
What is your go-to genre in cinema?
Like I was just saying, a genre that reaches out to me when I hear the script. It is not a go. I mean, left to me, romance would be. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. But to do an age-appropriate role at this point of time is very difficult. In fact, Gautam and I were just talking the other day and said, "What the hell? What is wrong with us? How did we give up on a franchisee like this? We were celebrating a 20-year celebration of Minale and Rehna Hai Tera Dil Mein, and people were eloquently praising the film, and we realized we never capitalized on that brand. So there isn't a easy go-to genre for me. But if there's an easy genre, it is either a relationship or romantic stories to do.